So, Django, hello, nice to see you again.
Hello, nice to see you.
And not a question I usually go straight in with, but how's your wife?
Yeah, she's very well. She's still gigging. She's actually
Cool.
going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August.
Oh God, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a long slog.
There's nothing in music that isn't even remotely comparable.
No, no, yeah, no, that's true actually. Yeah, no,
It's
it's the accommodation is the main
oh,
thing that's like,
tell me about it.
yeah, takes out of you.
Well, people hire their houses out for the duration of Edinburgh,
Yeah, yeah,
the resulting money they use to go on holidays all around the world for the duration of the Edinburgh Festival
yeah.
because it's just ridiculous.
No, no, it's true. Well, I think we went a couple of years ago with she wrote a show and we went up with it. I did the like sound for it. And there was four of us and we all stayed in one room for the month.
Yeah,
Because it's so expensive to stay up there. But she's doing the
yeah,
same thing this time. She's doing a stand-up comedy show, a double hander, and the two of them are sharing a bed for this time
yeah,
because it's just yeah, it's impossible to. But no, there isn't anything comparable in music really. Like even like if you
yeah,
were playing a festival, it would be a weekend, but like you never do a month
yeah,
festival.
yeah.
It's
I know
madness, really.
yeah,
But
it's insane. It's
yeah,
insane. But well, tell her I said hello,
yeah,
and
no,
I'll have to mention how we know each other through the in the intro.
yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah,
this will make
yeah,
no
yeah. No,
sense.
yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Um, Now, I know we've. I'd like to pick up, funnily enough, where we first began ever, which is when I came up and introduced myself to you. Um, and the conversation started pretty well, almost straight away, because I'm a curious cat, and I was basically saying to you, look, I've been thinking about this. Okay, I've been thinking about this job that you've done, about this mix. And by the way, what technology? How do you define it? Do you call it, what? Because there's
Uh,
various versions.
well, yeah, well, I call it a Dolby Atmos mix because
Right.
that's kind of what I know it as, and that is the technology that's used. Sometimes if I'm speaking to people, sometimes that doesn't really mean anything.
Spatial audio,
Yeah, so I'd
is
call
that a
it either
catch-all?
immersive audio or spatial audio. Spatial
Yeah.
audio is kind of a term that's been coined by Apple,
Yes.
which is the main place where you can listen to
And
it.
and
So
and Dolby Atmos, obviously,
Dolby
yeah, yeah,
Atmos is the technology that
yeah.
was created, and the kind of the tools that I use are made by Dolby.
But presumably there are other companies out there doing the same thing.
There are other companies doing the same thing.
So it's
There's
VHS and Betamax.
kind of, yeah. And I used to do quite a few mixes for. There's a thing called Sony 360. That's
Yes,
a
yeah, I know
similar
it,
technology. Yeah, I used to do a lot of mixes for that as well. Uh,
dude.
and
I
yeah.
I go back to Q Sound.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah. That. Oh yeah.
Over there in my CD collection is the first Q Sound CD I ever got, which was
Oh no way.
Roger Waters' "Amused to Death."
Nice.
And there's even instructions in the back of the booklet that says, "Sit yourself perfectly between the speakers. If the dog barking 15 seconds in doesn't sound like it's in the yard next door, you're not in the right place."
Yeah, that's quite a good. That's quite a good technique, actually.
But the thing is that it's like now when you read it, it seems so sort of colloquial and matey. Do you know what I mean? It's like fucking what?
Yeah, yeah,
You want
yeah,
me to sit where for the whole album?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
No, yeah,
that's not
but
happening.
no, yeah. It's an odd experience. Well, luckily with this though, headphones. It works on
Yes,
headphones, so you can
that's
listen to it out and about,
yeah,
which is kind of the main
yeah.
real selling point of it, I guess. But uh,
Well, also, I mean, so going right back to where we almost were a second ago, um, as soon as we met, I said I'd been thinking about it, and what I wanted to get from you is because I know it'd come from the stems, and I was thinking, well, if you've been given the stems, then surely job number one is you have to actually do a mix of the album that sounds like the original album, and then either whilst doing that or after that, you've then got to apply what you think needs enhancing and where. And is that
yeah,
like anywhere near what it was that you had to do.
Yeah, well, no, that's pretty much spot on. Yeah, I mean, with the Ace of Spades album in particular, well, I mean, with different jobs, you have a different process and you start in different places and need to do different things. With this one, which is quite usual for albums that were made, in the 70s and 80s or before, um, they stems weren't really a thing that
Yeah.
people were required to make at the time because there isn't really any need for it. You made the song, you mixed the song in stereo and had on a vinyl or a master vinyl
Yeah.
that the final product.
Well,
And
mate, I date back to I'm pre-STEM basically.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we recorded our first album on a 16 track desk, which is probably as wide as the biggest room in your house.
yeah, no, yeah.
And,
And
doing a final mix, it takes like three of us running up and down, moving sliders into chalk
yeah, yeah,
marks for
yeah,
particular parts of songs and shit, and
yeah.
doing a one take to try and get the final mix and capture it, and that's it.
Well, yeah, well, that's the other thing as well. Everything is done through a desk and through outboard gear that you can't recall. Again, like some of it, I mean, I obviously wasn't there at the time when they did this album, but quite usual practice would be to be moving the faders as the playing back is happening. So
Yeah,
things are being what we do now is automation and write in and spend hours editing each little movement to precise things that when you play back does it again and again every time. They most of the time or a lot of the time are doing that on the fly. So the actual material that I received was just the tape, the original tape, been digitized
mhm.
into the digital format, but literally the 24 track tape that had been made during the creation of
That
the album.
that was it. That's what I read, which led to my question because I remember thinking, well, Christ, that's a lot of tape,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you presumably you've got to fucking digitize that.
yeah.
And so you're not even starting from the beginning. You're starting from the beginning minus one. You're in negative equity
Well,
basically.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, I was given by the label the digitized version, so I actually didn't have to deal with getting the tape from that format into
Ah, well,
the
that's
digital
so
format.
right.
Thankfully,
Well,
I
in
think
that
that's done
case,
by like
yeah,
specialist people who are very adept with working with tape and also making sure because obviously these tapes are extremely valuable.
yeah,
That you have to and you treat them as they're going in, and there's a few tools that I think they use to make sure that all of that process works in the digital domain, and because various things can go wrong with alignment and things. But
yeah.
but no, I received for each track on the album 24. Well, I'm calling them track for each song on the album, 24 tracks per song, of unmixed stems essentially. So none of them had been processed. None of them. So you could play them if you play them just all together. It is the record, and it is timing wise, edit wise, for the most part, it is the record. But sound wise, it hasn't gone through any of the processing or any of the mixing that would have been done at the time. So yeah, the first job for me was kind of a detective work kind of thing of listening to the released track, listening to the original stems that I had, and trying to get them to match, which
Yeah.
is a whole task in itself, and actually
Mm.
is probably more the bigger chunk of the work than the spatialization of it, because really by then the most of the work of making it sound like Motorhead has happened, and the spatialization is just kind of enhancement. And with this album, it varies obviously project by project, but with Motorhead in particular, the spatialization I felt, didn't want to take away anything from what
Yeah.
Motorhead was, and it can easily run away with you. The amount, I mean, you can see like the speakers here,
Yeah.
the amount of options you have can kind of run away with you pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And you feel,
just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And kind of the signature of Motorhead sound is the kind of compactness of it. And I was
Yeah.
like, because with stereo, which is true with all Dolby Atmos mixing, I find is with stereo, you've kind of had to push all the sounds, all the instruments into two speakers, and you've squished them. Well, with some music, you've done it more than other music, but with this in particular, with like heavy rock, you've kind of compacted all of that music into two speakers, and that is what gives it the sound that it has and the power that it has. And then as soon as you pull all of that back and you start putting guitars behind you or just move out the drums and stuff, that like hard nature, that the power that it has can sometimes be lost because everything's got more space, more room to breathe, and really that doesn't give you the power anymore. So kind of my main aim with this was to keep that power. And so the spatialization is enhancing it, but with it's probably more subtle touches than you would with something else, or something orchestral maybe, where you know the being in the center of it and things moving and things are more, can kind of enhance more. Sometimes with this kind of music that can take away from it a bit. So kind of it was
Yeah.
about reining in where necessary and pushing where necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, you did a great job. That needs to be said because
Yeah.
the event culminated with us sitting in a purpose-built studio listening room, and listening to the whole album. And it did indeed sound spatial and audio.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
no, it was great. It really was because I think from your description, you achieved, you know, you got to where you set out to go, which was enhancing rather than, um, well, rather than anything else. You don't want to be overbearing. You know,
Yeah.
it's, it's, it's good to start with. You want to improve it. You don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
And that must have been daunting as well.
Well, yeah, well, obviously, because it's, such a huge classic album that so many people have heard so many times, especially Ace, the title track, obviously, Ace of Spades. Um, it's people, even non-Motorhead fans, have heard that song countless times. So,
Yeah.
and the original issue is trying to get the unmixed stems to sound exactly like that. And really, that just, it was a lot of time, a lot of trial and error. But one of the things I think I touched on a little bit at the event was one of the main sort of tasks and difficulty I had, or which just took a lot of time at the beginning, was that each song obviously had been recorded to tape on a tape machine. And just inherently with tape machines, the speed at which the song runs varies based on what speed the tape machine's set at, or even just slight fluctuations and stuff. And so I found at the original moment when I played the stems I got from the tape side by side with the released track, they ran at two very different speeds. So, and whether that was a choice of, because turning speeds up can give you a bit more energy, and slightly alter the pitch and bring it up a bit. Whether that was a choice at the time, or whether just whatever machines they were using, that's the speed they were running at. I that was the initial job, was matching those speeds together, and that did take that, and literally by it was done in percentages, and you were literally, I was moving by 1 or 2% at times,
Yeah.
trying to line up the speeds. And after the first track that I did that for, I kind of thought, oh, maybe they'll all be at the same speed, which would have been extremely handy. But
Why did you even think that? You are an
no, yeah, I don't know.
optimist,
It was
mate.
kind of as
You
soon as
are
I
an
thought that, I
optimist,
was
aren't
like,
you?
yeah, no, I was an optimist. I was like, well, yeah, surely the same percentage is going to work. But no, that wasn't the case. But that was the first job, which
So you were
was getting that.
starting from zero on each one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you had to line, and because the track from the tapes, actually, some of the songs ran a good 30 seconds, maybe a minute longer than the act, because of the speed at which they were playing back at. so the actual release version could be 30 seconds shorter in length than the track I had. Um, and the only way of doing it was to find kind of a point of find a specific point in the track that could be easily identifiable, like a snare hit or a kick drum hit, something that you can see visually in the
Yeah.
waveform on the screen. And so you have that point, and then you can measure exactly in milliseconds how long that point is in the actual tapes. I mean, I don't want to get too in depth,
Right. No, but I get it. I can
yeah,
mentally do the picture maths.
yeah. I did. I think I did that a bit in the event. I went a bit very technical in the event, maybe lost some people, but yeah, that was basically the first job, which was quite difficult. And then it was about tonally and
Yeah.
dynamically how trying to match what they did at the time.
Yeah.
But in terms of,
It's
because you mentioned like enhancements, and I mean I tried to steer away from that because I don't feel like it is really, that wasn't a part of what I thought, other than enhancements in terms of the immersive nature and bringing it into the spatial world.
yeah.
There's no,
That's what I meant. Yeah,
yeah, no,
definitely.
yeah, of
That's
course.
definitely what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. There wasn't any point where I thought, oh, I can, with tools that maybe have today that can take out some of the bleed or some of the
Yeah.
slight
Oh no.
technical discrepancies.
Yeah. No, you
Yeah.
just can't do that.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
some a few
absolutely
people
not.
asked that at the event, and obviously no, that isn't a part of the process with doing immersive audio stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, for some people, there's going to be a question sort of that's been wandering around their heads, and partly the answer is that your studio is called Feel the Noise Studios, and your surname being Holder. Some people have
Yeah,
actually only just put one and one together and gone, "Oh bloody hell!"
yeah.
Um, uh, um,
Feel the
so
noise with a Z and not an S as well. It's more of a
yes,
giveaway.
yeah.
But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, in case people didn't get it, yeah, you've
yeah.
really, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. No, it's fair.
Um, so you've entered the music business or the world of music, as far as I know, through being behind the scenes as a producer and mixer. Is so is that is this where you are on your musical journey? Were you in a band? I mean, what drew you to music? I mean, I don't know. I think I
Yeah.
might have an idea, but
Well, obviously, yeah. I grew up around music a lot. Yeah, with my dad, who was in Slade. And yeah, in case that wasn't obvious, but yeah, no, I mean,
it's
music
obvious
always.
every bloody Christmas, mate.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. Actually, I had somebody working here a few weeks ago who was American, and they obviously then saw the name was Feel the Noise Studios, and they were like, "Oh, are you a big Quiet Riot fan?"
Oh fucking hell!
Because in America, Quiet Riot covered "Come On Feel the Noise."
Yes.
And I was like, no, no. I mean, I'm not a Quiet Riot fan, but no, that's not. You
Can
should
I
know.
ask it? Can I ask you a genuine question? When
Yeah.
you were asked that, was that the first time you knew of a Quiet Riot cover version of "Come On Feel the Noise" existing?
Oh no, I did know it existed beforehand, but I was surprised that that was where they went to first. I was just like, no, come on.
That's my era metal. That is.
Yeah, yeah,
That's like that's somebody even like preceding me. So that's definitely that's an older metal reference for sure.
yeah. No, but no, so I've kind of worked. I've studied audio engineering,
Right.
in Liverpool, and I
Ah,
kind
right.
of,
Okay, that's what I was keen to
yeah. So I've
find out.
obviously always been interested in music. I play guitar, I play piano, and I kind of just sort of discovered the studio as like being something. And as soon as I kind of learned more about recording studios, and I did work experience in a SSL, which is School of no SSR, sorry, School of Sound Recording in Manchester,
Wow.
and that was kind of where I first was like, oh wait, recording studios are kind of cool. I'm kind of, because I love music, love finding out about how music's made. And so then I went and studied. It was sound engineering at LIPA in Liverpool, and kind of, yeah, fell in love with studio work and music production there. I was in a few bands whilst being there, and then moved to London to just kind of try and get in the door of studios. And that took
Yeah.
I worked in post production of film for a while on TV, and then eventually got a job at a studio, and who so happened to just be starting out doing immersive audio at the time, and they were actually doing a lot of Sony 360 work and a lot of Dolby Atmos work, and so there I kind of learned how to do that before kind of setting up my own studio space, doing my mixture of things I do here, but I do a lot of Dolby Atmos work, but also just music production and mixing and everything. But that's kind of how it went. Yeah.
I was going to ask, funnily enough, earlier if working on soundtracks was a big thing for you, and I thought now thinking about it, it's like, well, hang on, that's surely your bread and butter compared to Dolby Atmos music projects that come along.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of I've done a few soundtrack things, but actually, music is kind of taking a lot of the work now, and also
Right.
especially like legacy albums.
And if it's what you're getting known for as well, I guess that's it's more likely to come to you than soundtrack work.
Well, yeah. But to be fair, soundtrack work sounds probably is the most suited in terms of like
Oh,
you can make a soundtrack sound
oh
amazing
yeah,
in
yeah,
immersive audio.
absolutely.
Not that you
Well,
can't with other things, but like it really lends itself to that kind of source material because
presumably as well, it's not only do you consume cinema and movies completely different to music, but also it's with music, as we've discussed with Motorhead, it's about keeping it the way it is. It's about you
yeah.
don't get carried away. Whereas with the cinema, it's literally get carried away.
Well, yeah. And it
You
kind
know.
of this technology has been in cinema for a long time.
Yes.
When you
Yeah.
go to the cinema and you sit in the
I've got
middle
it on my
and
TV,
things,
mate.
yeah, things flying around you. That's been there for so long
Yeah.
that music is kind of only really a recent, well, in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, it's really started to grow where there's, most albums now are being or have already been remixed into immersive audio, and pretty much every new release that comes out with the Dolby Atmos mixes as well, connected to it. So yeah, it's kind of taken off, but it's more about the consumer end. Is where it's
Yeah.
going to really blow up. Hopefully, is that consumers at home want to listen to that kind of like have that kind of experience, and a lot of car companies now are making installing Dolby Atmos systems in their
Yeah. Well,
car.
that makes complete sense.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like smart speakers and home setups that work with it. Obviously, yeah, it works on any headphone as well, which makes it obviously accessible to
Yeah.
anyone at any point at any time. But
Yeah, that's a big difference as well.
yeah,
The
yeah,
fact that you haven't got some piece of kit that you've got to buy. That's always,
yeah.
it's with 3D movies, it was the glasses. It's, you just can't put any objects in the way. So the
Yeah,
fact that it can be any set of headphones is just brilliant
yeah,
and amazing, bearing in mind that, Apple's modus operandi is only being able to do it on Apple. So
yeah.
it's yeah, that makes a nice change.
Yeah. The Apple headphone, the Apple over ear headphones, do sound great with it, but they also do have a feature where it's like head tracked. So you can switch that on, and as you turn your head, the music shifts with you. So if there's something coming over from the side, you can shift and listen to it, which is a great feature.
Wow.
They only work on Apple headphones, but yeah,
God, that's insane.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd like that, to be honest.
Well, no, yeah. Sometimes when you're walking around outside, it is a bit. If you're sat still, then you can, choose where you want to go. But if you're walking about and looking around at things, you're just, yeah, the music's going all over the place. So I don't normally have it on, but yeah, the
Yeah,
option's there. Yeah.
weird, weird. Um, so how long's the studio been up and running?
About probably just nearly 3 years, maybe two, just yeah, 2.5 years, 3 years. Yeah. And yeah, we've done quite a lot of Dolby Atmos work, quite a lot of music production stuff and just general mixing. But it took a while to set up because obviously you need all the equipment, and there needed to be there's 14 speakers in here. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Yeah,
not
there's
getting that
14
set up in
speakers.
my front room, that's for
No,
sure.
well, yeah, no. But and they all need to be tuned. So Dolby themselves came and tuned and time aligned. So like
Yes.
whole
Yeah.
thing, each speaker's been specifically measured so that it
Yeah.
all hits your ear at the same point and they're all tuned to the right thing. So that took a little while to get it fully set up and running. But now, yeah, it sounds great. And the best thing is bringing people. If you've done something for someone, the best thing is bringing them to the studio and playing it back over the speaker system, because it does, when you hear something done well on a setup like this in a treated room, it
Yeah.
does sound, which is the experience that everyone got at the event. Although I was sat the very back corner in the event, so I was a bit like trying to make sure that it sounded the way I made it sound. But yeah,
That's really cool. I mean, and it strikes me as well that you're very much you're very much on the end of the process of music. You know, it's almost like it's coming to you for its, a particular version, a final tweak.
yeah.
Um, have you ever been tempted to get more involved with music, with bands recording albums, stuff like that? Because
Yeah,
you're
so well,
it's
yeah, I mean, a lot of the work I do is, I guess, yeah, the end process, like the mixing. Most things arrive fully arranged, fully made, and I'm kind of, adding the gloss at the end, especially with Dolby Atmos stuff. But no, I'm doing quite a lot of more production stuff. So working with artists on their music from the beginning. So writing
oh cool.
and recording with them here as well. So no,
Yeah.
I'm wanting to do a lot more of that than I have been in the last couple of years. But this year I've been doing quite a lot of that actually. So yeah, no,
Oh, that's really good to hear because I was wondering, what direction you'd be going in, um, and that must be great because you've now gone the opposite end of the scale from being involved at one end to being
yeah,
involved at
yeah,
the very beginning,
yeah.
um, and that must be really sort of rewarding and a completely different, skill set and challenge, but worth
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, it is. It's great. It's also good because you kind of have more you have more if you've been at the writing moment, or where an idea or a specific instrument or part has been put in that you've been a part of, and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's great. Which is a different feeling to obviously receiving the Motorhead stuff and mixing that into immersive is incredible in its own bracket. But you
Oh
obviously
yeah,
have there's less of a creative edition on that. There is a creative edition on the spatialization bit, but it's probably more, but it's equally technical and creative. But there is no creation necessarily in terms of the music, because there's no Motorhead have made the music and it's already perfect and made. I'm just trying to optimize it for the technology. Whereas, yeah, when you're working with an artist at the conception stage, yeah, it gives you like that creative buzz of you've created something from scratch that didn't exist before.
yeah. It gives you an investment in it
Yeah, yeah,
that you don't have, and also getting something like Motorhead. There's also there's a massive part of the mission is don't fuck it up, you know,
well, yeah, yeah, no, exactly, yeah, yeah,
and that's like yeah, because it's already done, it's
yeah,
already perfect.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah, yeah, and
you're
everyone already
working,
knows and loves it. which
yes,
it was which was the I kind of was a bit like intimidated at the event initially when I knew that was happening, because there's so many fans there who are such big fans of Motorhead that you couldn't play the what I'd done to a harder audience for a
yes,
great audience
yeah,
for one, because they love Motorhead already, so it's not like you're trying to play it to someone who's not interested, but two, they love Motorhead and they listen to these songs countless times and are more than happy with them, which they should be. And spend you're just trying to make sure that it's an enhancement of and a new experience that doesn't take anything away from what was there before. It's
yeah.
just something new and just, can be a slightly new way to listen to Motorhead.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So these the bands you've been working with producing, how did you come across them? Was it, seeing them in a local pub? You've got connections with labels, management.
There's a few various ways. A few of them are connections, but a lot of the work I do is connections at labels and management and things. A few of them are
Well,
word and mouth.
that's how the music business works.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And a
Yeah,
few are word and mouth things. So if you work with one artist, they might know a couple of
yeah,
others who say, "Oh, try and work with this, work with these." London, I mean, there's quite a community in London, and there's, I've worked at a couple of studios in London anyway, and obviously know people there and worked with people there. So it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of contact based.
yeah.
But no, it really varies job to job.
It's not what you know; it's who you know.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah, until
but
they
it take
walk in the room, and then suddenly you're like, "All right, it's what I know now." But
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
and it takes time to get to know people and to get known.
yeah,
Um, but no, it's good that you've got those kind of routes to market, as it were. And moving forwards, is it, as it sounds, sort of doing more of that and less of what you're doing? Is it kind of, can both be done? Can somebody come in and you know do what you do? Can do you expand, or do you remain as you are, or
I don't. I mean, as it going right now, I'm just, it's open to any kind of avenue, and I'm just doing all the work that comes at this point. There's a few
yeah,
Atmos things that I'm doing at the moment. There's, things that maybe might come up in the pipeline, whilst also doing the production things. It's kind of, yeah. I mean, it's just going whatever's needed right now. But
yeah,
I don't know.
it's organic. You're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna do, and I guess, like all of us, it's the goal number one is to stay busy.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, exactly, yeah, yeah. As
Because
long as there's,
essentially,
something.
self-employed, every day you're not working, you're burning money. So
Well, yeah, no, exactly. As long as there's
yeah,
something I need to do, then I'm kind of happy at the moment. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, quite rightly as well. Because I mean, is people like yourself? I have no concept of how many of you are sort of, in the UK who do what you do at the level you do. What sort of size of kind of competition, as it were, are you up against? Or
I mean, there's a lot of people who do what I do. It depends. Some people are quite specialist in terms of different areas. So, like Dolby Atmos mixing, for example, there is a fair few Dolby Atmos mixers, especially now. I think there's like originally when it first came out, there was only a few studios that did it, and then that's grown and grown each year, and now there's a lot. Um, but no, there is quite a lot, but there's never really feels like competition. I guess it's just, people do, if
yeah,
you work, and then if you do a good job, hopefully someone will then use you again. But there's quite a lot of no, there's quite a lot of people, especially in London. There's a lot of studios. There's a lot of people doing this.
so my
It,
next question following on from that is, so how do you win the job to do Ace of Spades?
well, to be fair, I didn't actually do any kind of work before being given the job. It kind of just came about from, a few conversations that I was having with people, a few people I met, and yeah, luckily there wasn't really. Well, I obviously had my previous work and my previous credits before then, which I think without that probably wouldn't have got given the job because
Yeah,
you need something to kind of prove that you can do it. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of got it based on previous work that I'd done, and then as soon as I started being in the process, a few of the people from the label came down, and I played back some of the songs to them, and then it was kind of apparent they were happy, which was good. So yeah, it just kind of moved organically from there. But
right.
yeah, but I haven't needed to necessarily for a specific job do a specific task for that job beforehand. It's just
Right.
mainly based on, yeah, previous
we think you're the right person for this job.
yeah,
Here's this
yeah,
job. Don't fuck it up.
pretty much. Yeah. And then just me being like, oh my God, don't fuck that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and as regards working with bands, I mean, what's your live experience like? You know, playing music live. Is that something that, you know, has played a big part in your life as well, or is it have you always been more sort of
Uh,
studio based?
well, I played quite a few things live. I was in a band. I joined a band at university.
Of course, that's the law.
Well, yeah, obviously, and we played quite a lot. We moved down to London. We played a few. We actually had because we were in Liverpool, we actually got a regular gig playing at the Grand National every year, which was great. Which was like a guaranteed weekend, a full Thursday, Friday, Saturday
Oh
weekend
yeah,
of all day playing. And that was great, to be honest. And we, even after we left, we did that for all the 3 years we were in Liverpool. And then even after we left Liverpool, I moved down here. We would still be asked every year if we could do that. So then we go back up and do that, and that was great.
brilliant.
Yeah, but no, I played live quite a bit. But in the last couple of years, well, since COVID, really, kind of we had a few plans of what we were going to do before COVID happened. Then COVID happened, that all kind of went away, and yeah, then I've started getting more into the studio stuff. So, but I would like to get back more into playing live, to be honest now. Yeah, but I did do that quite a bit beforehand. But no, I would like to start doing that again now.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it is obviously, you know, it's a highlight, but it's also a result of all the other work.
Yeah,
You know, without that, there's nothing to play live. So it's yeah, it's like any job. There's parts of it some people prefer, and some parts of it some people don't.
yeah.
Um, but it's nice to hear that you're you know you've had a live experience, and by the sounds of it, a really really positive one as well. Because the whole sort of moving to London and everything, it's the archetypal musician story in the UK, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, no, but we yeah, no, we had quite a few gigs around London before, yeah, 2020 happened, and we yeah, but no, I am wanting to start getting back into that. I think I've kind of had my energy focused on getting the studio and getting that kind of up and running and working well. That's taken a bit of a backseat right now, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's by the sounds of it, you're juggling quite a lot of plates
But
constantly.
yeah. And I mean, there's always different things like I'll do voiceovers, or like we did a voiceover with an advert a few weeks ago. So there's all different kinds of jobs that come up because then I'm kind of happy to do it all and everything here, really. But yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Are up, I mean, spatial audio, as far as you're aware, any spatial audio podcasts out there?
There was actually podcasts I know. I know there's audio books are quite a big thing now, and there's quite a
Yeah.
few spatialized audio books which sound incredible with full
Yeah.
sound effects, sometimes with a full score, like an underscore.
Wow.
That works very well. But in terms of podcast, there might be, but no, I'm not aware of a podcast doing it. But there is probably room for that, really.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm just thinking like,
yeah,
really
yeah,
big sort of true crime
yeah.
podcast with the appropriate spatial audio to match could make it that much
Well,
more.
yeah, no, definitely. I mean,
Um,
that may well exist, but no, but
well, if it doesn't, we just invented it, mate.
well, yeah, we should do it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
but no, I know audiobooks are definitely a thing, and I also I did a couple of jobs, and I've sort of had conversation with people about kind of a meditation style things are utilizing the technology a lot in terms of like wearing headphones and having these kind of relaxing
Yeah,
meditation soundscapes that because of the technology can like move around you and they give you this kind of visceral reaction.
yeah,
But no, that works really well. But no, podcasts would definitely be great. So it's often about the end, wherever the playback medium is at the end
yeah,
needs to be able to support it. So I think it's like YouTube and you know things like TikTok and stuff like that, as it stands right now, can't play back the file in the way that Apple Music can.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it all kind of varies on that. But no, I think that yeah, there's a lot of avenues that it could go into, and a lot of places in the consumer like cars are now, like I said, installing it to be able to listen in cars. But I've also always thought, and I think some are doing it, that like airlines, like the media that you're able to consume on an airline, a perfect thing in the headphones
Ah,
of that
right.
would be immersive audio.
Yeah.
Um, Especially yeah, for like even sleeping on a plane and having this kind of immersive atmosphere of wherever you are, I've always thought might work really well. I know there's a lot of avenues that you could go down, but
Yeah. That's insane.
yeah,
Again, like it's an application, yeah, the application of that technology. Like, yeah, there was me just thinking podcasts, but it can
yeah.
reach
Well,
everywhere,
podcasts
every
quite
walk of life.
like a huge thing that it could like true crime or
Mm,
like anything that requires more sound than a single voice. Uh, you can you can
yeah.
amplify that up to utilize the technology definitely.
Well, and anything from documentaries to um, dramatic stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
um, because it's essentially creating a soundtrack.
yeah,
And
and also
already, to be fair, you hear some podcasts, certainly some like BBC podcasts, where you get in a drama. They call it a podcast, and it's available on you download it as a podcast, but it's basically a drama, a radio drama,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and basically, it's the BBC. It's either pan left, pan right, pan in the middle, or pan left and right. It's like there's just no dynamism at all.
yeah. Well, I mean, the technology is there that if you try, and I think it's again about if people are aware, if the consumer at the end is kind of aware and then listens to it and thinks, oh my God, which I think has happened with a lot of audiobooks that I know are done now. A lot of consumers listen to it and they go, wow, that sounds amazing. Because, if the character's walking down the street, the sound of the street is enveloping all around you. It sounds like you're there.
Yeah,
But it requires, yeah, the consumer at the end to want it, really, and to know they want it first of all, to know it
yeah.
exists, and then know that they want it. But
So, leaping back to your past and sort of growing up around music, as it were. Um, is that was it ever the archetypal like, hey, we're going on tour with dad, and you're on the tour bus, traveling around, seeing all sorts of places, or was it more kind of, you know, I don't know, kind of different, more sort of, he goes away and you're all at home.
well,
How did it develop as through the childhood?
well, I mean, the band had split up before I was born, so I never
Ah, right.
fully,
Okay. Well, that
yeah,
answers that
so I
question.
never never fully experienced like them at their full height. But
I'm showing my age there, by the way, mate. That's what I'm
but
doing. I'm showing my age. You literally basically said, "Well, I'm not actually old enough to have been alive when he was in the band."
well,
It's
yeah.
like,
When the band was
yeah,
at
good
their full
point. Good
height,
point.
I wasn't born. But there were many other things that I've been to. I would have loved to have seen Slade at their full height because
Yes.
everyone that I speak to and meet who watched them live says that it was the greatest live show ever. So I definitely would have loved that. But I've been to a few things and seen Dad perform on stage live, which every time is incredible and every time kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I would have liked to have the full tour experience. It might have broken me though, to be honest. The stories I've heard, I don't know, I
Yeah.
might not have survived it, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it sounds incredible, and obviously, yeah, I would have loved to experience that firsthand. But
So has the surname Holder ever been a drawback? Ever been a something you wish you didn't have at a particular time?
uh, no, I don't think so. No, I kind of always been proud of it. Um, but no, I wouldn't say it's necessarily ever been a drawback. I mean, sometimes it means, some
Good.
people recognize it, some people don't, and it
Mm.
kind of doesn't really matter to me either way. But yeah, but I mean, the name Django, the first name actually probably causes more, especially at school, so with teachers reading the
Is
name
it
in.
is it Star Wars?
No, well, no, it's actually I'm named after Django Reinhardt, who is a jazz guitarist, a French jazz guitarist.
Right.
Um, uh,
God.
yeah, my mum and dad loved Django Reinhardt music, so they named me after him.
And there's me going Star Wars.
Oh yeah, but but now it's Django Unchained, the film. Everyone says,
Yes, of
"Oh,
course. Yeah.
after the film." I'm like, yeah. The film came out, I think, in 2010. So, but if they think I'm that young, then great, I'll take that. But
Well, that's literally making the opposite assumption that I made.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'll take either one. Either one's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you said you went to university in Liverpool and then moved to London, and so where did life start out for you?
In near just outside Manchester is where I grew up, and so like I kind of identify with like Oasis were like my big favorite band.
Right.
I was
Okay. Yeah,
throughout
that
my
answers a
whole time.
load of questions.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think is well, I don't know but today is the day they return, which is I'm
I
looking
know.
forward to watching on some kind of phone camera of whatever happens this evening. But no, yeah, but no, I was just outside of Manchester, so Liverpool wasn't too far away from there when I moved to university. So it's only about, an hour and a half away. And then but obviously London now, I've moved further away. But yeah. But no, Manchester music is kind of what I grew up on. I feel like I have to love Manchester music because I'm from nearby. So like, Oasis, the Smiths, now the 1975. Like I love all those kind of bands.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's yeah. Manchester has always been very proud of its music,
But yeah, yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
and got to do something to fight back against the Beatles success story. So
Yeah.
you got to yeah.
Well, I love the Beatles as well too. I mean, Paul McCartney was my university lipper is he's the head of the university. It was his old school, and he it goes to every graduation. So I was actually handed my degree by Paul McCartney. So I love
That's
Paul.
amazing.
Yeah, I love the Beatles as well. So yeah,
Fucking hell.
yeah.
Wow. These are the things that you don't hear about.
No, yeah, yeah. No, he's incredible. He comes to every graduation every year, and he
Yeah.
also does with the music. So I was on the sound technology course, but in with on the music course at Lipper, I think like 5 or 6 students a year get a songwriting lesson one on one with him. And
Bloody
I,
hell.
I spoke to, I know a few people who had that and say it was incredible. And then they can
Yeah.
all leave university with a song co-written by Paul McCartney, which is incredible. But yeah,
That is amazing.
yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah. No, he was great. Yeah, I have a photo with him with my degree. Like, it's great.
Brilliant. Any chance of sharing that photo with me so I can share
Oh
it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think it's
Please
online.
do, because
I'll send
that'd
it.
be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
And yeah, including and I can try and rip off and say something, including a special guest.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, look, Django, I can't thank you enough, mate. This has been great. Really enjoyed it.
No,
And
no, thank you.
look, stay in touch because who knows when the next exciting project is going to come along. I'm going to bug you about it and want to hear all about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, of course. No, you're not going up to Edinburgh this year, are you?
No, no, yeah, no, I'm gigging. I'm gigging. It was last night. I was in where me and your wife met at the downstairs of the King's Head.
Oh, nice.
Tonight
Yeah, yeah.
and tonight I'm doing where out in sort of Hertford way.
Oh, okay, cool.
Um, and yeah, so no, I've never done Edinburgh, never will.
No, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm only going up to visit for a couple of days, but yeah,
Yes,
she'll
you
be
do
there. For,
right, mate. You
yeah,
do
yeah.
right. Well, look, cool. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you again soon.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Take care, mate. Bye
Cheers.
bye.